There are nights when the air feels heavy, when the body grows restless and the mind refuses stillness. You sense a pressure, as if the world is shifting in ways no one else can see. This is not coincidence. It is the silent burden carried by those called to walk a path few will ever understand. Chosen ones live with a strange paradox. On one hand, there is a fire of destiny burning inside, calling you to higher ground. On the other, that very fire separates you from the ordinary flow of life. Friends drift. Normal pleasures lose their taste. You are tethered to something larger, yet left standing apart. That isolation is painful, but it is also the mark of initiation. In this video, we will enter the hidden terrain of that pain. Not the surface struggles most people talk about, but the deeper currents, the 9 sharp trials that surface as the August 31st portal approaches. These are not abstract ideas. They are living experiences that press against your mind, your spirit, even your body. Few understand them, but those who do walk into clarity. You will hear why silence becomes unbearable before it becomes liberating. Why the body aches when the spirit prepares for transition. Why loneliness, instead of being a curse, becomes a sacred teacher. These lessons have been kept within the walls of monasteries, shared in whispers through centuries, because they are not easy truths, but they are necessary for awakening. Stay until the end, because only by walking through all 9 pains will the path ahead reveal itself. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire, where discipline meets spirit, and silence gives birth to strength. If you are ready to step deeper into your own calling, I invite you to subscribe and walk this journey with us. The most difficult sound to endure is not the cry of battle, nor the roar of storms. It is the sound of nothing, silence. Many run from it, because silence does not comfort, it confronts. In Shaolin halls, the practice of silence is not an escape from the world. It is a mirror that shows you what you carry within. When the noise outside disappears, the noise inside grows louder. Old memories rise. Regrets whisper. Fears you thought buried come crawling back. The quiet does not create them, it reveals them. There was a time when a young student came to me trembling in meditation. He said, "Master, when I sit in silence, my heart beats so loud I feel it might break my chest. My mind swarms with shadows. I cannot find peace." I told him, "Good. Now you are seeing what was always there. Silence has not betrayed you, it has unmasked you." Pain rises in the quiet because the body and spirit finally have space to speak. In movement, in distraction, we drown them out. But when you sit, when you breathe, when you resist the urge to run, you begin to face the unrest directly. This is where transformation begins, not by fighting the silence, but by staying with it long enough to understand its language. Each breath becomes a lantern in the darkness. Each moment of stillness sharpens your sight. You begin to see the roots of your suffering, the patterns of your thoughts, the heaviness you carry without noticing. Silence is not passive, it is an active training ground. To sit in it requires more courage than to fight an enemy, because here the opponent is yourself. And only by facing yourself can mastery take shape. There is a certain restlessness that comes when the spirit senses a horizon the eyes cannot yet see. It is not simple boredom, not the shallow urge for distraction. It is deeper, like a pulse under the skin, whispering that your path is wider than where you stand now. The trouble is, this agitation can become a torment. You feel pulled forward, but unable to move. You burn energy in the struggle, chasing shadows, exhausting yourself in circles. The ancients understood this fire well. In Shaolin practice, it is said that the mind untamed is like a wild horse, powerful but easily led into chaos. Left unchecked, restlessness blinds you. You leap without direction. You confuse motion with progress. The more you push against the feeling of being stuck, the deeper you sink. This is why breathing becomes a discipline, not just an act of survival. Mindful breathing anchors the body and steadies the wandering mind. Inhale, and you gather yourself into the present. Exhale, and you release the grip of agitation. Slowly, the fire that once scattered your focus begins to fuel your awareness instead. There was a monk who once said, When the water stirs, you see only distortion. Let it settle, and the truth reflects clearly. The same is true of the restless spirit. By sitting, breathing, waiting with patience, the agitation transforms from enemy into guide. It sharpens attention instead of scattering it. What this really means is that unrest is not a curse. It is raw energy waiting for direction. With discipline, it becomes movement toward clarity. Without discipline, it devours you. The breath is the bridge. Through it, restlessness is no longer a prison. It becomes the very force that carries you forward. There are moments in the cycle of time when the air feels different, when the unseen currents move faster, sharper. August 31st is one of those thresholds. The shift is not always dramatic on the outside. The sky may look the same, the day may unfold as usual. Yet within, there is a sense of being slightly tilted, as if your body and spirit are playing out of rhythm with one another. It is subtle, but undeniable, an ache that presses for correction. The Shaolin masters often compared this sensation to a drumbeat out of sync. One strike lands too early, the next too late, and suddenly the whole rhythm feels broken. Life itself has rhythm, the harmony of thought, breath, action. When that rhythm falters, you feel the strain in your bones, in your mood, in the way your energy scatters. At such times, discipline is not about forcing alignment, but about creating space for recalibration. Breath becomes the metronome, stillness becomes the tuning fork. A single round of conscious breathing, a pause before action, can begin to draw the body and spirit back into step. The ache is not a punishment, it is a signal, urging you to listen more closely to the hidden balance of your life. There was a teaching once shared in whispers: when the world shifts, do not run to match its speed. Stand firm and let the world realign to you. This is the essence of mastery. Misalignment is natural, but permanence in that state is not. The chosen ones sense it more sharply because their sensitivity is heightened. Their task is not to avoid the imbalance, but to recognize it, to breathe through it, and to use it as a doorway back into deeper harmony. There's a saying among warriors: you do not discover your shape in comfort, you discover it in fire. Pressure has a way of showing you exactly where your limits are. It pushes against the soft places, exposes the cracks, magnifies the edges you would rather keep hidden. In ordinary days, those edges can be ignored. But under spiritual fire, nothing stays concealed. Shaolin training begins with discipline, fixed routines, strict forms, endless repetition. At first it feels like chains. You rise before dawn, repeat the same movements until your muscles burn. But the purpose is not punishment. Discipline lays the foundation so that, when pressure arrives, you do not break into chaos. Yet there comes a moment when discipline alone is not enough. In times of trial, when the air itself feels heavy, discipline must transform into presence. Rules and structures hold you steady, but presence allows you to adapt, to meet the moment without clinging to form. Presence is the living edge of discipline, the point where practice breathes. Think of a blade. Raw steel is hard, but without pressure, it remains dull. The sharpening stone grinds it, creating sparks, wearing it down. That grinding is painful, but it is what makes the edge precise, capable of cutting cleanly. The chosen ones feel this pain deeply because their lives are meant to be sharpened tools, not ornaments. Pain, then, is not simply suffering. It is the refining fire that strips away what is unnecessary. Each trial, each moment of pressure forces you into greater clarity, greater exactness. The path of mastery is not about avoiding this sharpening, but about learning to endure it with stillness. For in that stillness, the edge is revealed, not broken, but defined. There are barriers that do not come from the outside world, but from within. The old teachings speak of 5 such obstacles: desire, ill will, dullness, restlessness, and doubt. On ordinary days, they may feel like passing moods, but when the portal opens and energy sharpens, these obstacles awaken with full force. They do not remain concepts in a book. They rise as living triggers, pressing against your every thought and breath. Sensory desire appears first, the urge to cling to comfort, to distractions, to the pleasures that numb the discomfort of change. Ill will follows close behind, the sudden bitterness toward others or even toward yourself when the path feels heavy. Then dullness arrives, pulling you into lethargy, tempting you to close your eyes instead of facing what stands before you. Restlessness spreads like fire, scattering your focus, leaving you unable to stay still. And doubt, perhaps the most dangerous, creeps in to whisper that none of this is worth it, that you are not strong enough, that the path itself is an illusion. These five are not enemies to be destroyed. They are teachers demanding awareness. The discipline lies not in suppressing them, but in seeing them clearly without reaction. To feel desire, but not obey it. To sense ill will, but not feed it. To notice dullness, yet sit upright. To witness restlessness and return to the breath. To hear doubt and let it pass like a cloud. In this way, each obstacle becomes a gate. Each moment of resistance trains the spirit in patience and precision. What once seemed like traps reveal themselves as opportunities. The chosen one learns not to run from these fires, but to stand inside them, unshaken, until the flame itself becomes light. There are wounds that time does not erase. They live quietly beneath the surface, carried in the breath, in the posture of the body, in the weight of unspoken memories. Some of these scars are personal, the grief of losses, the burden of expectations never fulfilled, the sting of shame left unresolved. Others are older still, carried from ancestors whose struggles left impressions on the spirit. Whether you know their stories or not, their echoes move through you. When spiritual gates open, when energy sharpens and veils grow thin, those buried wounds no longer stay silent. They return like voices in a chamber, demanding to be heard. The grief you thought you had mastered rises again. The expectations you inherited press down heavier. The shame you hid in corners reveals itself. It can feel overwhelming, as if the past is collapsing into the present. The instinct is to escape, to run from the discomfort, to bury the echoes once more. But the path of mastery requires something else, courage to turn toward the pain. In Shaolin tradition, the warrior is taught not to fight every opponent with force, but sometimes to simply stand, unmoving, allowing the storm to pass through without knocking him down. The same is true here. You do not silence the wound by rejecting it. You acknowledge it, breathe with it, and let it move. In this way, scars become teachers. Grief trains you in depth of compassion. Expectation sharpens your discipline to choose your own way. Shame, once faced, becomes a reminder of integrity. To carry ancestral pain is not a curse. It is a chance to bring closure where silence has lasted for generations. The chosen ones face it, not to suffer endlessly, but to break the chain and step forward lighter. The body rarely lies. Long before the mind admits its unease, the body sends quiet signals, a sudden heaviness in the limbs, a dull ache in the chest, a fatigue that sleep cannot fully heal. These are not random inconveniences. They are the language of the body, whispering truths about the turbulence within. In Shaolin practice, the body is treated not only as a vessel, but as a teacher. Every posture, every movement, every breath becomes a dialogue. When your thoughts scatter, your shoulders tense. When your heart carries sorrow, your breath shortens. When fear creeps in, the stomach tightens. These signals are subtle at first, easy to ignore in the rush of daily life. But when the portal peaks, when energies intensify, the body stops whispering, it begins to roar. There was once a teaching shared through movement. When the body bows, the spirit follows. This is why monks train not only the mind but the flesh, because discipline in one reflects discipline in the other. To neglect the body is to neglect part of your spirit's mirror. During heightened times, chosen ones often feel exhaustion without reason, sudden pains with no clear cause. It is not weakness, it is the body translating the shifts of energy into sensation. The task is not to panic or to resist, but to listen, to rest when rest is needed, to breathe into the tightness, to stretch, to walk slowly, to align the body so that the spirit can find balance once more. The more closely you attune to these signals, the clearer the connection becomes. The body reveals where the mind is restless, where the heart is heavy, where alignment has been lost. In this way, unrest itself becomes a guide, showing you exactly where to bring presence and care. There comes a stage on the path where the air between you and others begins to thin. The conversations that once filled your days no longer carry weight. Small talk feels like sand slipping through your fingers. Laughter over shallow things rings hollow. It is not arrogance that creates this distance, but resonance. As your spirit sharpens, fewer people can meet you at that frequency. This solitude is not chosen out of pride. It arrives as part of the climb. The higher a mountain rises, the fewer companions remain on its slopes. In ancient traditions, seekers were often sent into retreat, not only to test their discipline, but to accustom them to silence, to the loneliness of rare air. The absence of constant voices forces you to sit with yourself, to listen to the dialogue within. Yet the loneliness carries its own ache. You may long to be understood, to share what you feel stirring inside. Instead, you often find yourself misunderstood, your depth mistaken for distance, your silence mistaken for indifference. This is one of the quiet pains of the chosen, walking among many yet belonging to few. The discipline lies in not resenting this solitude, to see it as part of the refining process, not a punishment. For it is in the emptiness of hollow conversation that you learn to value words with weight. It is in the quiet spaces that the whispers of truth grow louder. Those who endure this stage discover that solitude itself becomes a teacher. It sharpens presence, deepens awareness, and prepares you for the rare encounters with souls who truly resonate. Until then, the path remains narrow and the silence heavy. But within that silence, the spirit learns to stand steady, luminous, and unshaken. When fire meets metal, there's always violence at first. Sparks fly, heat distorts, the surface cracks. To the untrained eye, it looks as if the steel is being destroyed. But the smith knows this is the only way a blade is born. The furnace does not break the metal, it reveals its strength. The same is true of the chosen ones in the crucible of transformation. The pain, the pressure, the disorientation, it feels like an ending. Yet in truth, it is only the reshaping. Energies that once tore at you begin to settle. The storm that clouded vision clears. In that clearing, you begin to see with new precision. Pain is no longer chaos. It becomes the fire that hardens your edge, the pressure that aligns your steps. Ancient traditions understood this rhythm well. Seasons of trial were never seen as punishments, but as necessary passages. A seed must split before it can grow. A stone must endure years of water before it becomes smooth. The path of mastery is no different. What feels like breaking is often the exact moment of tempering. To pass through such a crucible demands discipline, not the rigid discipline of forcing outcomes, but the steady discipline of remaining present. To breathe while the fire burns, to stay still while the storm rages, to trust that the trial itself has meaning beyond the pain. When the energies finally settle, what remains is not the same as what entered. The restless heart grows steadier. The mind once scattered becomes sharp. The spirit carries a weight, but also a new lightness. You emerge not untouched, but transformed. The crucible leaves its mark, yet that mark is proof. You were not broken, you were refined. The path of the chosen is never without weight. Each pain you encounter is not here to destroy you, but to refine you. What feels like burden is a call to purpose. What feels like silence is a mirror to your truth. Restlessness, misalignment, loneliness, all of it is part of the shaping. These thresholds ask you to stay present, to meet them with discipline, and to trust that on the other side you stand clearer, sharper, more aligned with who you are meant to be. As the August 31st portal closes, remember this lesson is not bound to one date. Every day offers its own crucible. Every breath is a chance to center, to realign, to live with presence. Let these teachings guide you not as abstract wisdom, but as practices you carry into your steps, your speech, your choices. You are not here to escape the weight. You are here to grow strong enough to carry it with grace. If this message has spoken to you, we welcome you to walk deeper with us. Like this video, share it with those who seek the same clarity, and subscribe to our channel Shaolin Soulfire. Together, we continue the practice of stillness, discipline, and awakening. Until next time, walk with calm breath and steady spirit.